By the social effects of the opium trade and by its drain on their silver supply, the emperor and his advisors debated what to do.
The emperor spent time looking for an upright official because opium is something you could sell and make a lot of money. So you need someone who is upright and very Confucian, very moral.
Such a man was the incorruptible Commissioner Lin. Of his appointment, an old friend wrote, "Our great land needs thunder and lightning to revive it now." Lin gave the orders to destroy all the opium held in British warehouses.
Commissioner Lin began the destruction of the British opium in early June 1839. There were 1,200 tons of it. It took 500 workers more than 3 weeks to get rid of it all, burning it, mixing it with lime and dumping it in these ponds. And at the same time, the commissioner wrote a letter to Queen Victoria, a letter that's touching in its almost naive belief in Confucian morality. We learn that your country is 60 or 70,000 li away from China, he said. And yet foreign vessels come here to make great profit out of the wealth of our country. But by what right in return do they sell us this poisonous drug which does so much harm to the Chinese people? They may not necessarily intend to hurt us, but by putting profit above all things, they are disregarding the harm they do to others. So we ask you, where is your conscience?
But the British were in no mood to discuss Confucian ethics. The fact that China had 50 times their population and lay the other side of the world was of no matter. They were a maritime nation. The Chinese were not. In fact, the Chinese didn't really have a navy at all. Did they understand that the balance of power in the world was changing because of maritime power?
Yeah. I think for us historians, we always ask that. So don't they realize that they were no match? Don't they know what's going on in the world? I think the answer, I can be quite definite in that, is no. They still think we are the Middle Kingdom and all under heaven respect China, admires Chinese civilization.
Bringing ships and men from India, the British gathered a task force and sailed to China. In New Year 1841, they entered the Pearl River. And there, the Chinese found themselves hopelessly outgunned.
The Chinese had defended the estuary in depth. They had outer fortifications towards the sea, and then at the Narrows, these big fortresses with heavy guns. To the soldiers who were waiting here so anxiously, it must have seemed that they had a chance of defeating the British. In fact, the Chinese guns were useless with their fixed positions and fixed range against a mobile enemy. The British fleet had 3 74-gun warships out in the estuary, a flotilla of smaller vessels. They had 15 troop ships carrying native Indian regiments who were going to fight alongside the British when they stormed these fortresses. And their secret weapon was a nearly 200-foot-long boat made entirely of iron. And on it, swivel and pivot-mounted heavy weaponry and a rocket launcher that could send incendiary projectiles. And the name of the boat was the Nemesis, Retribution.
At the climax of the battle, a British rocket hit the powder store of the flagship Chinese junk, which blew up in a tremendous explosion. The British then rampaged up the coast and stormed the port city of Ningbo. shock and awe, 19th century style. Rocked by their defeat, the Qing government sued for peace in the very place where 400 years before, Admiral Zheng He had given thanks after his great voyages. Here in this room in Nanjing, they negotiated the first of what the Chinese call the unequal treaty.